Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back in another video today, and we're going to be talking about the Houston Rockets potentially signing Gary Trent Jr., former Toronto Raptor, or soon-to-be former Toronto Raptor, in free agency, former teammate of Fred VanVleet. And it's been reported a couple of weeks ago, it was a report on Bleacher Report, or no, sorry, not Bleacher Report, Hoops Hype, that Gary Trent Jr. could have some interest in teaming back up with Fred VanVleet and joining the Houston Rockets. Now, also, going into free agency, there were some reports that the Rockets were going to be interested in a couple shooting guards to potentially sign in free agency, and they were going to look at the following names to potentially bring in. And the names that were mentioned, and I believe this was on Rockets Wire or something, and it was Eric Gordon, Alec Burks, and Gary Trent Jr. were the three shooting guards that were mentioned. And I'd love to see the Rockets adding Gary Trent Jr. I've seen a lot of people say, oh, well, there's no room for Gary Trent Jr. I believe that's simply not true. Just because of the fact that, I know people want to see Reed Sheppard play in his rookie year. I want to see Reed Sheppard play in his rookie year. But I think there's a great chance early on you're not going to see Reed Sheppard a lot in his rookie year. We didn't see Cam Whitmore or Min Thompson get serious minutes until, whether that was coming off the bench or starting, until late in the season. Yes, Min Thompson became a starter at the end of the year when Sengun got injured. And around January, February is when Amin and Cam Whitmore, really both of them started to get consistent minutes off the bench and playing good basketball as well. So I think there's a good possibility we see that with Reed Sheppard as well. I think there's a good possibility we see him sit on the bench like we saw Cam Whitmore do for the first couple months of the season last year. And we saw Min kind of, even though he wasn't 100% healthy, for a little bit sit on the bench. Both guys made appearances in the G League with the Vipers. I think the same thing very well could happen with Reed Sheppard. And I think this Rockets team right now in a stacked Western Conference are putting themselves in a position where they definitely very well could become a very successful team in the Western Conference, not just for the near future, like this year. Right now, with the current team the Rockets have, I kind of see them being a 10 to 8 seed. And that's not even talking about with the potential addition of Gary Trent Jr. Right now, I think they're more of a 10 or 9 seed in the Western Conference. But I think if they play good basketball and things go right, they could end up as the 8th seed, in my opinion. But I think they could be even better if they add in Gary Trent Jr. This offseason, the motto and what they're looking for has been, and Ime Udoka has said this, 3-point shooting and defense. As far as I'm concerned, Gary Trent Jr. provides both of those things. Gary Trent Jr. is a great two-way guard who is great defensively and a great three-point shooter. At one point, and I think for a very long time last season, and I think it kind of went down a little bit when his minutes went down, but I think all the way to like December or January, Gary Trent Jr. was leading the NBA in deflections. Gary Trent Jr. is very aggressive defensively and a very good defender. He averaged 1 steal per game, but more of aggressive defender, with a point where he's leading to more steals for the defense. Meaning, what I'm saying is like with his deflections will lead to to steals for whoever he's playing for, whether it be Houston or Toronto or whoever he signs with. He's a good scorer, and he's a great scorer off the bench. He averaged 14 points per game this season, which actually was a little bit lower than his last previous seasons before that. He's a great three-point shooter. He shot 39% in his career, shot 39.3% this season on 6.4 attempts per game. 2022-23 season, he averaged 17.4 points per game. 21-22 season, 18.3 points per game. And Gary Trent Jr., I watched a little bit in the 2021-22 season when both Gary Trent Jr. and Fred VanVleet were in the starting lineup and starting together. VanVleet was starting at point guard for Toronto, and then obviously Gary Trent Jr. was starting at shooting guard for Toronto. And I really thought that both guys had a lot of chemistry together in the starting lineup. And look, I don't think you're going to see Gary Trent Jr. be in the starting lineup with Fred VanVleet. But I think they mix really well together because they're both good 3-point shooters. They're both very good defenders as well as guards. So I really enjoyed watching the two of them play with each other in Toronto, and I thought they really worked well together on the court. And I think that can transition to Houston as well, and especially in an Ime Udoka system. So I think even though you're trying to develop your young players and you want Reed Shepherd to, develop, but Reed Shepherd, who's a solid defensive player, can definitely learn from a guy like Gary Trent Jr., who's a very good defensive player. And I honestly think that Gary Trent Jr. would take the Rockets over the top. Look, I'm not saying he makes this Rockets team a top 5 team in the Western Conference, but I think he's one of the missing pieces, you can say, that can turn this Rockets team into a for sure play-in team and maybe even a playoff team. Because right now I see them as a team that they make the play-in, but they don't get out of the play-in, and they get eliminated in the play-in. But Gary Trent Jr., if you add in Gary Trent Jr., who brings great scoring, great 3-point shooting, and great defense, I think the Rockets definitely could find themselves in the playoffs as a 7th or 8th seed. And be successful in the play-in tournament. So let me know your thoughts on the Rockets potentially signing Gary Trent Jr. in the comment section, and peace out. Go Rockets.